welcome to Candybar Antlerboy, a series where I, Mike Rapin, discuss the Netflix original series Sweet Tooth with the one and only IRCB regular, Danny.
Hey, Mike.
Every week, we'll be discussing one episode of the TV series and chatting about the comic of the same name by Jeff Lemire, originally published by Vertigo Comics. Now, let's get into the show. This is Season 2, Episode 4, aka Episode 12, known as The Bad Man, 57 minutes long, 43 seconds. Spoilers for Episode 12 of Sweet Tooth. You have been warned. Danny, how are you feeling about this fourth episode of the season? This is the midway point, and I didn't realize that until I got to the very final minutes of this, and I went, how many more episodes are in this season? And there's only 4 more. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm a little frustrated because this was a hard one to stop. So we're trying not to watch ahead,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
To do this for so we don't want to talk about episodes in the future and stuff like that. So it was very tough to not let the episode keep playing. Like once this one was over to the next one.
Dude,
That hadn't happened this season. I remember that happened last season for sure with a few of them. That had not happened this season. Like I didn't mind taking a little break in between episodes. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this one. I think there's a lot to talk about. And then just kind of like all the things that have been building up for the season so far. And then yeah, like you, I went to the list to see where we were, and I can't believe it's only 8 episodes. This seems insane. So, but I'm ready. Let's talk about it.
yeah. Let me do a quick summary here. So again, spoilers for this episode. If you haven't watched it, go pause it, go watch the episode, come back, listen to this. But here's what happened. So Gus is shunned by the other kids for lying to them about Roy. That's kind of like the focus of his whole episode. Jeff and Amy are abducted by the landlords, which is maybe the best gang name I've ever heard in my life. And manage to convince them to storm Essex Zoo to save the hybrid kids in exchange for, quote, the spoils of war. And in the final moments, Amy cuts Jeff out of the plan. We'll get into it. Singh finds a cure for the sick, aka the H5G9 virus, which gives Abbott all the leverage he needs with the other warlords in the land, known as the Three. And Bear goes full army mode in the recruitment center for the last minute and heads out on her first mission, to round up some hybrids. Oh my goodness, Danny. Finally, I think after last week's episode where we were kind of wondering, when is this show going to pick it up? They're like, don't you worry. We got you, bud.
Yeah, it does feel like all the bear stuff could have been done in this episode. Like they could have moved some stuff from this episode to the previous one. I feel like it was a
Yeah.
weird arrangement. I know Netflix expects everyone to like just kind of binge their stuff. We're
Hmm.
not doing
Hmm.
that obviously, so it's a little frustrating when we do take breaks. Also,
Yeah.
before we get angry letters from the fans, it's the Air Lords that kidnap. Uh,
Oh,
they
I thought they were called the
they
landlord. Oh, okay. This makes way
they
more
want
sense
a
because they
tank.
have
Yeah, they
planes.
want a tank so they can become the air and landlords. But I don't want, yeah, I don't want any angry mail. I mean, you can still send Mike an email if you want, but we have addressed it.
Yeah. Well, damn. Okay. Well, let me just fix all of my notes where I thought there was a lot of really fun puns in this
Just
episode, and there weren't.
find and
Um.
replace real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. I don't know how I got that confused. I was like, what a cool idea for a gang. I could have never considered. Anyways. So we meet Amy's friends. These are the Air Lords, as I've adjusted my notes. And it seems like every week we're gonna swap who's the paranoid parent in this relationship, because last week it was Amy, this week it's Jep. Jep is just not keen to meet new friends, which I get that. He's been burned. But yeah, so they go to meet these people and then they immediately get abducted. And I don't know. Maybe we should just talk about the Amy and Jeff stuff before we get into the kids being sad, because I'm not ready to do that, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you want to tackle this one. Do you want to stick with Amy and Jeb's whole story, or do you want to bounce around? Because I think
I mean,
it's we once again we're seeing 3 different storylines, which is hard to keep track. Well, I guess 4 now since Abbott was out and about as well. Um,
yeah, yeah,
so but a lot happened. Unlike last time, a lot happened with Amy and Jeb this time around. Not only did they meet these Air Lords,
yeah,
and we get we get introduced to some real funky characters that I feel like they have at least one line of dialogue to tell you who they fully are as a character.
yeah.
Sometimes it works, Sometimes it just seems like a caricature,
Yeah.
as you probably see in one of these guys with the mohawk or with the mullet.
Mhm.
Uh, but the idea of these people like flying everywhere seems a little weird. Like, I don't know in this world how close everything is to everything because every episode feels like somebody's moving really fast throughout
Yeah.
these cities. So like how useful is this plane or helicopter or whatever air transportation these people have? Like
Well, we know that Gus was originally in Yellowstone Park, right? And if we're to believe that Essex City is somewhere within driving distance of that, I would guess.
mm,
Like at one point, what they were going to Colorado or they needed to get
yeah,
to
yeah.
Colorado. I feel like I it's really weird. The geography of the show
We
is
need
weird.
a they need to open the episode of the Game of Thrones style map where we just kind of go through all the little
Yeah,
towns that we're gonna talk about.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But I mean, I will admit, like, I think the idea of the Air Lords is cool. I'll be completely honest here. I like checked out for this whole like we're gonna fight with these guys, and then Jep and Amy are gonna do this thing, and we've all got bad attitudes, and this is the cool lady with the gun, and she's the leader. Like, I kind of checked out on all of that because ultimately I knew it was them just like getting together. I kind of felt really gross about the whole "Don't worry, you get the spoils of war." It's like I don't know. Like, maybe I just want too much. I want peace. I want peace just so desperately. But like the fact that everyone's like, don't worry, you're gonna get your piece out of this whole
yeah,
thing. Like they're all just war profiteers. Someone's gonna be screwing over another person, right? So if they take out the last men, then now they're the new faction. And then that new faction becomes a thing. And like the worst part about that group to me was they were like business is booming because so many people are having a bad time. It's like, oh my, like I know that we're trading in like our morals for the fact that we need this kind of mini army, but also like, wow, they are laying it on thick about how these people are kind of just really as bad as Abbott. They just don't use violence, they use commodities, right? Um, I don't know, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I was very much just like, I don't give a shit. I
no,
don't care about
same.
these
I
guys.
definitely agree. They did not make any one of these people likable. Like I think the leader
Yeah,
seems capable, which is
sure.
always good to have. But also, I don't understand why I don't know if it's from the adaptation of the book, but like these could have been the people that Jep knew, and I think that would make a little more sense than Amy
Yeah.
like calling them once to drop flyers and now they're gonna do this other stuff for her. Also, like
Hmm.
why are they like if I was them and I'm thinking like a mercenary here, you told me your plan. How about I don't help you, but I still take all of Abbott's stuff and I just don't
Right.
help you?
Right. I mean, is there no honor among thieves, Danny? I mean, I totally agree, and that's the thing. I think, like, again, this is where I know we were talking about last episode about how communication between the characters, blah
Mhm.
blah blah. This to me feels like kind of wonky writing,
Yeah.
where like they wanted to give Amy more leverage or more power than maybe she appeared to have. Like, I think Jep constantly underestimating her, thinking, "Oh, you're just this scared lady who's hiding, and you've got nothing." And this is kind of proving, oh no, she actually has connections, like, and they aren't just people with guns.
Mhm.
Because I think that's maybe something we didn't get from this episode is while they have the ability to be violent, they are not the same violent as the last men, right? Last men show up with Kevlar and
Yeah,
AK-47s and
yeah.
gas masks. These are kind of like crazy Mad Max style, like we're riding on the back of our diesel powered planes, shooting like pistols and flare guns at you because we don't care, like we're badasses. Um, it's a different kind of crazy, I
Yeah,
think.
I do like
Eh
the guy that, he's like, "Oh, I'll go in there and take care of this by myself." Like, there's one guy that's real cocky, and
yeah.
I feel like he's gonna get some comeuppance and, like, I don't want him to be the first one to die if they attack, but,
Mhm.
you can't just, Leroy Jenkins into into the zoo, um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, we'll see.
Well, and this show is interesting because 'cause they're very intentionally secretive about their numbers, right? Like, and not from a like, "Oh, Abbott's hiding his numbers," or, "Oh, these people are" it's like, they only have so much money to pay so many actors, and they're not gonna CG a crowd. So and we don't know how many people flew in these planes at the end of the episode.
Mhm.
We don't know how many people Abbott's party actually have. It's kind of implied that he does have like a small army, which to me is like thousands,
Mm.
enough for them to have a training
Yeah.
facility apparently, which like maybe we could talk about Bear's storyline next, but they clearly have significant enough numbers, like because they're like a branch off of the American military. It feels like, so I don't know. It's interesting, and It's gonna be very funky to see how these two factions clash in the next episode once they fly there. And again, this is me skipping over stuff because I know that there was a plan and they built Legos and it was cool. And I was kind of just like scrolling my phone just to be like,
Yeah.
I know we got to get out of here. That's pretty much it. So I don't know if there was anything more monumental that happened
Well,
in those moments, but I definitely just kind of
there
checked
is
out.
one thing. Uh, Amy finds out what Jep used to do for the Last Man,
Yeah, yeah,
and that really sets up like the end of their arc for this episode, at least, where
yeah.
she
That's true.
chooses to leave him behind. He doesn't go
Hmm.
on the mission, right? And there's really nothing he could do about it because they're going on a plane. So like,
Right.
he can't just go up and catch them or whatever. So, but yeah, the way she just turned on Jep. I mean, and it makes perfect sense because like those are her, like that could have been one of her kids that and those
Hmm.
are the
Hmm.
people that drove her out of the zoo, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a real
Yeah,
intense scene, and I think they both reacted the way I would expect them to. Um
yeah. Yeah, I did see that. I should say, like, I guess, like, maybe I was paying attention more than I thought. But, like, yeah, I did see all of that because their conversation kind of led down a path where it was like Jep clearly didn't wanna say it, but he knew he had to. He, like, had to come clean with her.
mhm.
Um, and, because she knew he was a last one, and she didn't necessarily know what he did. And the fact that, like, there was a line that he said along the lines of, like, I know I didn't abduct those, your kids, but they could have been them or something. And that like was what broke her. And she started like almost cartoonishly like punching him in the chest. And you got to think that actor, he's a big
Yeah,
man. Like
yeah,
he's a hunk of a human being. And this woman is just like pounding her fist cartoonishly against him. Um, was kind of a funny moment. But yeah, even still, like I understand why she did what she did. And then, Jeff has no choice but to like hop in this. I thought it was an ice cream truck
yeah,
and drive down the highway, to try to catch them, which we know that they're within driving distance of, the zoo. I mean, we don't know where these, air lords live, but it's assumed that they're probably like the Essex City Airport
right.
or something like that. But they've got warehouses and all that kind of stuff. So interesting storyline there. I liked the development, but it did feel kind of like in my mind maybe strung out a little bit
Mhm,
in
mhm.
order to build to what they eventually did. Um, but yeah, maybe we should talk about Bear and
Let's
Saved by the Bell's
good, good,
storyline here.
good transition. I like that in between the last episode and this one, we did not look up that the name of that character, so we're just gonna
I
keep
know.
calling him Saved by the Bell.
Well, I think I wrote in my notes somebody called him Jordan. Maybe that was his last name. I don't know. I don't keep track of all the tertiary characters.
No.
He's just a face in a sea as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but yeah, this is interesting because we see like how the last men take random people and turn them into recruits. And in my mind, I thought that the last men they'd been together for a decade. It didn't seem to me like they had brought in a lot of new people. And maybe that's just me being like naive about like, a decades long campaign of them growing from nothing into something. Um, but I didn't really think that they would have a recruitment facility, which kind of changes my perspective on how much power this group actually wields. Because I feel like earlier in this season, the warlords people that we met, the people called the three that
Yeah.
Abbott tried to go meet, um, they kind of implied that he was a weakling in the group, even though he had this kind of presence. But I almost question that now because if you've got enough of a system in place that you can bring in recruits, you can give them supplies, you can take all their stuff, you can do all this military training, like you must have a bit more than just like a fun little militia running around, right?
Yeah, it definitely feel, and I talked about it a little bit on the last episode, that it felt like Abbott and the Last Man felt like a house of cards that was gonna crumble at any time. But
Ex-
seeing this,
yes.
it makes me doubt that maybe the show's been playing us along as well,
Hmm.
because their numbers maybe are bigger than we think, and they actually have some training, or because even if we when Jep and Amy were talking to the hair lords about them, they're like, oh yeah, those guys can't shoot, and like, so I don't know. I hopefully they don't underestimate them when we finally see them
Mhm.
have a confrontation. Um, but yeah, I also like the training montage for Bear. I think that was
Oh my gosh.
very very 90s action movie where she just kind of like outdoing everyone, like, which it makes that part makes perfect sense, right? She was part of the
Oh,
animal
yeah.
army. Um, I also feel like she's risking a lot just to keep the tape for Gus.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I like my, like, stomach clenched when she they're like, "Unload all your stuff," and she grabbed that tape and put it up her sleeve. I was like, to me, I feel like, and that's the great suspense of the show, right? Is that like characters are making decisions like this, but I was like kind of floored by the fact that like getting caught with contraband, I feel like has always been shown in television and movies as like a humongous no, like disqualified, put you in the hole, whatever it ends up
Yeah.
being. So for her to do that, like super significant. I definitely felt that.
Yeah, so I'm curious because, like I said, hopefully the tape really pays off. I mean, I don't. Can they even play a tape? Who knows? She doesn't even know what a tape is. She just has it.
Right.
She knows it's
Right.
important because Birdie told her over the walkie.
Right.
So we'll see. But I think now that we kind of, towards the end of her storyline, we get to see what her first mission is gonna be, and that's pretty
Mhm.
jarring. Like, I don't want to see that happen. Like, I'm not looking forward to
I
that
know.
part.
I know the fact that like her first mission is, and this is like, I actually kind of love that this is kind of how the story has progressed, because we didn't really talk about it I think last week on the show, but the thing that Saved by the Bell says to her about like, oh, I'm going to join the last man. Oh, they don't just round up hybrids. It's not just that. Like only some of them do it, blah blah blah. And of course as soon as they join, what happens? They're rounding up hybrids because of course they are.
Yeah.
Because Abbott is obsessed with this idea because Dr. Singh has said, "I need more hybrids," right? Um, it's really, it's almost like a surprisingly good payoff for this storyline that I personally not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
So, I like that we're actually getting that because it's making the situation dire. It's proof that Bear was right and that this kid does not know what he's talking about, which to me is like more of a justification for people to believe in Bear
Yeah.
when she needs to start recruiting people onto the side of Gus, which I think is something that we're going to see down the line. And I'm not saying that because I know it from the comic. It just feels like that's the way that it's going to
Right.
go. The comic doesn't even have this character, but I think that like there needs to be, there's this younger generation mutual understanding thing that Bear is kind of that link for, where like the adults don't get these hybrids, but the animal army, we totally understand this. This is the next generation and we're here to help usher it in.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I'm hoping that like Bear gets to throw this in Saved by the Bell's face in order to say like, this is what I was talking about. This is why I didn't want to do
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
But of course, it's going to force her to reveal
right.
that she was in the animal army. So like,
That
fun tension.
Yeah. There's there's a lot of like you said, tension that's kind of building up that I hope it gets resolved. I mean, with bad writing, it could get resolved really badly as far as just like weird things happening in the
Yeah.
show. But I think so far I trust the show enough to like have a good payoff for all that stuff. We could move. I mean, we talked about hybrids. Let's talk about our hybrids now,
Please, please.
because things are. Speaking of tension, is it broke my heart to see Gus sitting there all by himself with all the other hybrids like off, ignoring him or leaving him alone. Like, I know we as the audience have a better, um I guess it's more reasonable for us to understand why Gus is doing what he's doing. But it's
Mhm,
still
mhm.
heartbreaking to see him be iced out of the group. Uh,
Dude, that it broke my heart. Like that, the little kid saying, "We don't trust you anymore." I like fell out of my chair. I was crying, man. I was out of it. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, "Not Gus,
yeah,
not him."
the director was like, "Give me the most adorable child to tell Gus that he's out of the group."
Dude, I and it's such a unfortunate thing because again, like you said, like we know why Gus made the choices that he made. But, like, how do you explain that to a kid, right? And even Wendy is like, "I shouldn't have let you lie." Like, that didn't help us in the long run, because it was a weak lie in the first place,
Yeah.
right? Like, it was the type of thing, and I think this is a lesson for Gus, for ultimately, like, that he can't do that. He has to speak the truth
Mhm.
to these people no matter who they are. Um, but obviously she's busted up. And then, of course, we get one of the most, like, in my mind, touching moments in this season that we've seen so far, right? When Bobby walks over, and oh my god, he's like, he wanted to hold dog, and he was just like closing his eyes, and the puppeting work is amazing. It's better than Mandalorian. I don't care what anyone says. um, I love Bobby and Gus together because they're like old school. It's like the first kids together, and I don't know. I love it. And then of course Bobby's like, Bobby trust Gus, and I was like, where's my Kleenex? Who's chopping onions over here? Like, that's such a beautiful moment.
I love that we both wrote the same line too. I think
Yeah.
for our notes, Bobby is the hero of this show. We just don't know it yet. Bobby is the hero of this show.
Oh
Uh,
man. Yeah.
and as I said, if anything ever happens to Bobby, I will stop watching the show. Sorry to the
Uh-huh.
listeners, Mike.
Uh-huh.
You'll have to find that replacement. Um,
It'll just be me again,
yeah.
man. Bobby does say the line or excuse me. Yeah, wait, are there 2 Bobbies in this show? Am I going crazy here?
No, 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 no. I don't think so.
Wait, what is Abbott's brother's name?
John, Johnny.
Oh, why did I write? Oh, Johnny, not Bobby. What am I writing? So, anyways, my line later, I thought, so we get this nice moment between Bobby and Gus, and then Bobby's just like, "Peace, I'm gonna go in the sewers."
I love. Yeah, he grabs the pliers and just takes the collar with the sensor off. Like
Right,
like if he had used pliers before too. Bobby, I'm telling you,
right.
Bobby is very capable. We just don't know it because he's so adorable that it hides underneath all that.
Exactly. Well, and I think this is a, like, one of those things that they're highlighting now, because there's this through line that we've seen. It's not like it's hidden. That the humans, like especially the adults, do not trust these hybrid kids, but they also don't think that they're intelligent, right? They don't think that they're able to speak. They don't think they're able to do things. And like we've seen as the audience, like obviously there's Gus, there's Wendy, but we've also seen these other kids who either choose not to speak or can't speak, and they use sign language. They're clearly able to communicate.
Yeah.
They clearly understand how things work. They know how to use tools. They are as intelligent, if not more intelligent, than your average everyday kid. And Bobby is that, like, I think accelerated it kind of kid where he's very smart. He's capable. He knows how to solve problems. Like, he's clearly thinking more than he's speaking. And this is just one of those things where he grabs the thing, cuts the collar off, climbs up the wall, unscrews the thing, starts crawling through the sewer. Like, Bobby's got plans, and you know what? I'm excited for it because at the end of this episode, Bobby pops out of the sewers outside of the compound. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is the exciting TV that I need in my
So
life.
I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm pretty sure it was. Bobby, that was the scene from Shawshank Redemption when the guy gets out of jail after crawling through the sewer. Like he does the same thing
Yeah.
because it's raining and then he puts his arms out. I like my
Oh
note
yeah.
literally says Bobby Shawshank his way out of the zoo.
If only there was a poster that he had ripped down, right? That would have sealed the deal, man.
I you know what? Yeah, right. I think we're gonna have to Photoshop a new poster of Shawshank with Bobby
Yes.
in there. Um,
Yeah, reach out to ircbpodcast at gmail.com. Let me know if you'll edit that scene together. We'll pay you for it. Um, but beyond, the hybrid kids, very sad moments. We get a moment where I guess maybe we could talk about these two scenes, these two things in order, because there's kind of a build up. But like we get Singh talking about the virus to
mhm.
Abbott. We get Singh researching this thing and creating the first dose of the cure after looking at these chickens and looking at microscopes. They do some really interesting camera work in these scenes where like his eye is like flying at the camera and we get this really close up stuff. It's very cool. Um it's a way for them to kind of magic away the science, I guess, but like it looks fun, right?
Well, and I gotta commend like the makeup department because Singh looks beat to shit. Like his face,
Oh my god.
like the rings. He almost looks like Gara with the rings around his eyes because he hasn't. I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably hasn't slept in a few days since they're
Yeah.
trying because we're doing these kind of week to week. Like it doesn't feel like everything's happening for Singh like right at once, but this is all like going to the facility, coming back, doing this in the lab, and then the way that the actor sells him finding the cure, that joy, like just his face transforming and covering his eyes because he didn't want to see the result until the machine was done or whatever. Like
Mhm.
incredible scene. Like I said, anything with Doctor Singh or Gus is like my favorite scenes that are happening right now in these episodes.
Totally. Um And then of course, Abbott he Abbott shows up, shows Singh shows him the cure. They have this beautiful like classic science where I've got the vial between my two
Yeah,
fingers and
like
I'm holding it up at a
why does it
distance.
glow? Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know. It's magic. Um so Singh and Abbott talk. Abbott immediately steals it away, but he's so pleased. He's finally got something over the other
Mhm.
warlords, the three. And he decides let's have a dinner. Let's do a little dinner thing.
Now,
Which is maybe like the most awkward thing in the world, but yeah.
was the scene with his wife coming in before or after Abbott visited? Because that
That was before.
okay.
You're
So
right. Yeah,
let
yeah,
me go
yeah.
back and address that because that that one unfortunately broke my heart after I was so
Oh,
excited from
yeah.
last episode, right? He tells her about the cure and then she realizes that there's blood on his hands. And
Mhm,
we
mhm.
pan over to like this covered up thing and like I think as the audience we knew what was under there. But then when
Yeah,
Abbott
yeah,
comes
yeah.
back and shows him it is confirmed that was Peter, our
Yeah,
alligator hybrid that we met last episode. And that was heartbreaking because I
yeah.
mean, it's a child, and even like same thing that happened to Roy. Like even though we didn't really know Roy, like it's a child that's being sacrificed to
Yeah,
do all this stuff. Now
yeah.
I hope that at least this means that they don't need to keep killing hybrids now that they got the eggs or whatever. I still the show hasn't really, at least I didn't feel like the show has explained if now that they have the eggs they can finally stop killing hybrids or
Mhm.
if they're still gonna need to kill the hybrids to make this new cure, but now it's gonna be fully efficient as opposed to just address symptoms. So um
Yeah, it's yeah, definitely was not clear as to, like, what the answer to that was, but yeah, this is just proof though that, like, Singh will do anything, right? Gus last episode said, "If you hurt Peter, I will never talk to you ever again,"
mhm,
right? And clearly Singh doesn't care, right? Like, maybe that's a bit harsh. I think he does care, but I think he cares more about finding the cure than the promise of some kid.
yeah.
Um, and so, he will go to whatever ends he has to, and he has been, right?
Mhm,
And I think that scene with his wife, Ronnie, is really powerful because I think all along she has known what he's doing. But this is the first time that she actually was confronted with
yeah.
the byproduct of his work. Despite he's so happy, he's so excited. This is the cure, you know. But she can't she still sees the, like, horrors of what
Mhm,
happened, which we're gonna see how that kinda plays out. It's weird because they have this moment, and then Johnny runs into Ronnie and is like, "Hey, you, like, can't be out here anymore," and then they become buds, and, then later they, like, go to dinner, and it's, like, fine,
yeah.
everything is fine, which, like, whatever, who cares? But I'm also kinda like, you'd think that that would have affected the scene in some
Mhm.
capacity, but, yeah, they go do this dinner, it's kind of just a lot of gallivanting
Yeah,
and yada yada, but yeah.
and Ronnie's still putting up a front, I think, in front of Abbott for the dinner because they do have a conversation after when they go back to their room. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
Before we fully talk about the dinner, we do know that because of the guards being assholes, uh, Gus finds out that Peter's dead. He
Oh,
shows
right,
them
that's why
one
he
of the
was upset,
guards.
you're right.
Yeah, one of the guards has the crocodile tooth or a claw or whatever they took from Peter, and they're threatening the kids. So Gus, like, he hits one with the antler and runs around
Oh,
and
yeah,
tries to escape, and he
yeah,
runs into Abbott. But I think this is right before the dinner. Um,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're
so
right, you're
so
right.
I don't know. I think next time Singh has to talk to Gus, That's definitely gonna be it's gonna come up, right? Because they
Yeah.
made a deal. I feel like they had a deal, and now Singh has
Mhm.
kind of gone
Mhm.
back on it. Um,
Right. Well, yeah, I guess Abbott runs into Gus after the dinner. Um, but yeah, I mean, the order really doesn't necessarily matter,
right.
but I'm curious to know what Abbott's going to do now that he's talking to Gus because he addresses him by name.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he knows that Gus is important to all of this, which makes me wonder, like, is he gonna try to make him the next kid? I mean, Gus, for the first time, has used his antlers to, like, gore somebody, which I was like, "Whoa!" Like, I was actually taken aback by
Yeah.
that because it was such a brutal strike against some guy's knee. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." Like, we've never really seen Gus get violent like that before, and, so, yeah, I don't know. A lot of things happen very suddenly at the end of this episode, right? Like, we get the Gus running out of the thing, running into Abbott. Bobby gets outside of the sewers. Bear is out to find the hybrids. Amy is off to find the hybrids in the plane with the airlids. Like all these things happen in succession.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like, hey guys, maybe you could have clipped this episode by like 10 minutes and gotten us here a little bit sooner. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah. We could talk about that at the end.
If they had moved, yeah, if they had maybe rearranged the storylines, we it would have been easier to track what's going on. Because even with
Hmm.
our, we took notes for all this stuff, and it's still kind of hard to keep everything straight in the succession things that
Yeah.
happen. Um, but yeah, I mean that zoo is gonna be uh like a battle zone in the next few episodes, and
Yeah.
I hope that the yeah, I mean I hope that the kids are gonna be safe. But I think Ronnie's gonna be the linchpin because I feel like she's maybe realizing that it's not worth everything that they had a conversation about karma. I think a couple of, like either this episode or a few episodes
Hmm.
ago,
Hmm.
and I think she's realizing that it's not worth everything that they're sacrificing, their humanity almost really,
Yeah.
for this cure. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I mean she's rightfully worried about her husband. Like she clearly cares about him. She doesn't see him. This is the thing that I should say I appreciate about their relationship is that she doesn't see him as a monster
Mhm.
despite everything that he's done because she knows that he has a good heart. And I think that we've even seen in the show
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Singh is not a monster. He's not brutal. He's not Abbott. He's not this sociopath who's willing to sacrifice anything to get what he wants. He's doing things because he has no other choice. Um, which is why just one last note about Abbott. So weird to see the discussion at the table where Abbott's like, "Oh yeah, we used to be in a band and I like do everything to take care of my brother. My brother's the most important person in the world. I've done everything to make sure that he's safe and everything and that's why he's here." And I'm like, I was honestly waiting for, like, the other shoe to
yeah.
drop
Same.
and for him to do something cruel, and he didn't. And I
Yep.
was like, okay, so they're just gonna leave this here in the water for us, and we're gonna get back to it later." But man, that felt like such an almost out of character moment, and I know that they did that intentionally, because that was a crucial
Mhm.
moment to show, again, more of this Abbott character, this facade falling down. There's something that is just kind of broken about
Yeah.
this character, and we're seeing like maybe one of the places where there could be a weakness.
And I think the worst part of it for me is that I like Johnny as a character. I
Oh,
I
yeah.
I hope Johnny ends up being on Gus's side. Uh because I don't know, the actors is like whenever he's listening to his brother, and maybe this is because I have a brother myself, so like I understand,
Sure, sure.
like it's like the way he's just looking at him, like realizing that he's at least he thinks he's doing a lot of this for him, to keep that promise.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, we'll see. It's just very that it was a weird scene. The whole dinner scene was weird as shit. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
but some things came out of it for sure.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's
Yeah,
getting
well,
real gray area everywhere.
I know, and that's the thing. We're at the halfway point of the season. It's very exciting because I think it's weird because I was almost like, can we get through this story a little bit faster? And then suddenly we're getting through it faster, and I'm like, whoa, 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 okay, slow it down, maybe just a little bit. um, but I think this is a solid episode. Even if I was a little bit checked out for some of it. But overall, like the big things that worked really well for me this episode were we got a cure, but that of course made things more complex. But I like that. I actually like that there's, like, hope in a lot of ways because in my mind, the comic doesn't offer a lot of that hope. Um, in good ways and bad ways,
Mhm.
and I'll leave it there for now. But yeah, I thought that was like a good thing in this episode, and I love that Bobby's free. And Bobby, he's the man. That's it.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
about you?
No, it's I mean, definitely agree with Bobby. I love that whole thing. I'm also very excited because I do want to see a little bit more action. So like the fact that the cavalry's on its way to the zoo. I
Hmm.
need the kids to get out of there safe. Even I don't mind them being in conflict with the last man. I just don't want them to be prisoners anymore.
Yeah, same.
I if they have to be chased or whatever the case may be, but I need them to be reunited with mom. So
Yeah, yeah, man. Well, I guess the only things that I'll say, I kind of touched on some of the things that maybe I wasn't a fan of this episode, but I think like Bear's story is maybe the outlier here in what I actually want out of like the
mhm,
whole Sweet Tooth story. Her story does feel like very out of left field a lot of the time. And again, I kind of expressed this, I think, in last week's
yeah,
episode, but I think they're trying to show like a new link to Gus with the youth,
mhm,
but also like I feel like it could be done in a different way that would feel a little bit more satisfying, or maybe there should be like some tinge of something extra to this, but I just am not feeling it.
yeah.
Um, I don't know, it just feels out of place, I
I
guess.
mean, especially if you're gonna add a character to an adaptation that's not in the original material, you need to make it a character that's important. There needs to be an important reason for you to have done that change. Which in the first
Yeah.
season, I like Bear. I like everything with the Animal Army and that story. Uh, in
Hmm.
this season, I think it almost feels like her story is a bit of an afterthought. And it
Yeah.
may be because it's broken up too in very weird pieces all throughout these episodes.
Yeah.
So hopefully that changes for the next half of the season. We'll see. I mean, we still
Yeah.
have 4 episodes to go, so hopefully they can pivot.
Yeah. I think what I'm gonna have to do is at the end of this season, I'm gonna have to do an Arrested Development style Netflix
Just
recut where I put all of the
all the bad
storylines in
scenes.
order connected so that you can watch them side by side.
Just yeah, go to YouTube and check out a bear compilation. Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing, I don't like seeing mom and dad fight. So the rift between Avi and Jeb, I don't like it. I feel like both of those characters are the support that the hybrids need, and
Hmm.
I think they're stronger together. But I mean, I
Totally.
fully understand Amy. So I think Jeb's gonna have to be do some redeeming. He can't live on his former glory as a football player forever,
Yeah.
which comes up all the time apparently.
Yeah, that's it never ceases to make me laugh when someone's just like, "Hey, you're that guy."
Yeah.
It's such a goofy thing. Um, well, yeah, I think yeah, that I think it'll be interesting, like, again, for Amy to be like, "I have this idea, I'm gonna go without Jep," and then Jep suddenly shows up. So, we'll see how that plays out, hopefully in the next episode or 2, but I guess to wrap everything up, we're at the midway point. I'm very excited to see where the show goes. Um, yeah, I guess to sign us out, I mean, you can always check us out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Goodreads, YouTube. All the links are going to be in our show notes. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/IRCB podcast to get early access to episodes, access to our post-credit show, which we do for the regular show where we just kind of chit chat after we finish recording. IRCB Movie Club, Better Batmobile, so much stuff on there. The IRCB Candybar logo is done by TheSamDS. You can find a link to their stuff in the show notes. Music for this episode is Beautiful CS by Robert Farmer. I want to say thank you to Danny for going on this journey with me and getting halfway through this season. Thank you to Jeff Lemire, close personal friend, everyone at Netflix for making this show happen. Thank you so much. If you got this far in the episode, we love you to death. And until next time, comics are good, and so are you.